I'm here to talk today about Jouvé. Now, Jouvé, as you know, those of you that have heard me speak about it before, I've been super thrilled about this brand since it launched, and even quite honestly before it launched, because those of us in the Wellness Council have had glimpses and samples of this since June. So I had to be very, very diligent in keeping the tubes that I had of it and be very careful with when I used it because I didn't want to run out. But so I'm going to teach, like Woodson already shared, I'm going to teach a few different things here. But the number one thing, and I'll be honest, yes, I love this line for so many reasons, but the majority of you out there, and probably the majority of people you're going to talk to, only care about one thing, and that is, does it work? So that's where I'm just going to cut to the chase and get to that. So let's talk about how you can even say it does work. As you know, this particular product was studied in a clinical trial. Now we're going to have some more details on the clinical trial that are coming out in a white paper. So keep your eyes peeled on that. But in the meantime, these are just some things for you to understand how much this product actually does work. So with our tightener, for example, in the study, as we know, there's a reduction in fine lines and wrinkles within 90 seconds of use. We've all seen the before and afters, the really dramatic before and afters. We even have the beautiful new video that just came out where it shows some people's initial reactions, and you can see really how emotional people get. It also helps to reduce the appearance of large pores. Now, I know for me, sometimes when I would see those before and after photos, it almost looked like it was photoshopped. And you would think that if you don't understand this about the tightener. The tightener actually does help to reduce the appearance of the large pores. That's why we get that smoothing effect on the skin. So those are the things that we certainly can observe immediately. And that's, here are some of those before and afters that we've seen going all over Facebook and the internet. People are sharing their dramatic before and afters. And this alone, if you just show people before and afters, will get 90% of the people really honestly wanting to buy it. But I'm here to actually build a case for beyond this initial wow factor, why someone would actually care to buy Jouvé. Now, this is one of our differentiators. The fact is there are other instant tightening products that are available on the market today. They are all based on a similar technology to ours from the standpoint of what actually causes the instant effect. But this is where we're actually differentiated. And this is important to understand, is we don't only just have the immediate results, but we have been clinically shown to have the long-term benefits. And the reason for that is our Jouvé has a certain specific brand new cutting edge peptide in there. And what the peptide does is that actually is what creates the long-term reduction in wrinkles. For example, it specifically helps the microcontraction of the muscles. If you think about it, our muscles all get into a habit. And over time, when we smile, when we frown, when we look surprised, our muscles get used to going in a certain pattern. And so the skin becomes used to that too, and it just forms a habit. So what the peptide does is it helps to relax the wrinkles. It helps to relax the microcontraction of the muscles, which is what then will cause over time the wrinkles to actually decrease. So that is a differentiating factor compared to other products. So that is one thing that you can speak to is, and as Woodson always says, and I love this and I repeat it all the time, is the first time you use it is the worst result you're going to get. And it's quite frankly true. So in the clinical study, we did study it for 6 weeks. And again, you don't have to remember these numbers. I'm just saying them here for the few people that actually care. But your big takeaway is that it does work and it's clinically proven to work. So you can feel confident that people will get good results when they try it. Because that is one of the things everyone always wants to know is, if I buy this, is it going to work? Because in this industry in particular, so many people have spent so much money on stuff that doesn't work. So this is really your ace in the hole, if you will. But after 6 weeks, 97% of the participants showed an improvement in fine lines and wrinkles. And the overall clinical measurement during the study was a 26.8 wrinkle reduction. Now, that is an average number for the study. Most studies, when they talk about a study that was done, they will show their highest result and leave out the average because there's always those outliers, right? Well, our outlier was up to 63% of a reduction in wrinkles in 28 days. I mean, that's insane. But the average for our product in the clinical trial was 26.8. So that is a substantial reduction in a clinical setting. So I wanted to make sure I pointed that out because that is something that's a real differentiator. Now, with the brightening cream here as well, this is just from our home presentation, this particular slide. So you guys actually have access to this slide. But in our brightening cream, this is insane from a clinical study, but 100% of people on the brightening cream showed an improvement in fine lines and wrinkles after 4 weeks. I don't think I've ever seen, I'm not saying they don't exist, but I personally have never seen something that has 100% of the people that take this product have an improvement. That's amazing. So you can rest assured that you're going to have a happy customer at the end of the day. Now, this is what something I want to point out is when we did the clinical trial on the brightening cream, we knew that it would help with skin tone. We knew that it would also help with luminosity and the appearance of more youthful skin. But what we didn't anticipate, which we were really excited about, was the 37% reduction in fine lines and wrinkles just on the brightener alone. So that alone, so I know for me, so many of you have probably seen the before and after photo that we have of Woodson, which was just 28 days on the brightening cream. That is how I've sold, honestly, more of Jouvé than even the instant tightener, because people get all excited about the tightener. And then I say, oh no, just wait, let me show you something else. So that's a really important factor. And when you use both together, they really work synergistically to help get an even better result. So I advise not selling them separately for the first time you sell them. So that's a highly impressive result. So here we go back again. So does it work? Yes, it does. It works. And you can feel confident with that. So moving on, I'm now going to talk to those of you who are in the audience who maybe don't really care as much that it's healthy. Like I care that everything I put on my body is healthy, but honestly, most people don't. But here's why you actually should care that it's healthy. And I'm here to build a case because you guys are going to come across people like me, people that actually care. And that's an important niche because when you get somebody that's like me that doesn't have alternatives that are healthy and you introduce Jouvé to them, trust me, they'll be all over the moon about it. So this, as you may have heard, I trained on this when we were in Las Vegas about the essential oils. You've probably heard Deanna speak about this, but our skin truly is a sponge. It's our largest organ. It is not a barrier to the outside world. It's actually a carrier. So things that we put onto our skin literally go into our bloodstream. Almost everything that we put on our skin does get absorbed. There are certain things that will just sort of rest on the surface and don't actually get down into the deeper layers to get into the bloodstream, but the majority of things do. It takes 26 seconds for a substance when you put it on your body, and it happens quickly, 26 seconds before it actually enters your bloodstream. That's like, most people don't quite get that, but 26 seconds and 34 seconds takes a little bit longer for it to circulate through your bloodstream before it's detectable in your liver and kidneys. So one thing I always teach my clients when I work with them is when we're trying to make a big impact on our health, we want to take the things that we do on a daily basis, things that we do often, and make a change there, because cumulatively over time, that is what is going to make the biggest difference in our health. And what do most people do on a daily basis? They wash their face, they put on their moisturizer, they take care of their skin. And so if you can make a shift in someone's life to put something healthier on their skin, you're going to make a bigger difference down the road for them. So that's a really important thing to understand. And clearly modern medicine has, this is actually from my prime presentation from Vegas, but modern medicine has already, I mean, that we've got the smoking cessation patch, we have the birth control patch. So medicines are being delivered through the skin, through dermal application. So clearly the science is, this is science, so you can feel comfortable, knowing that that's true. But here's another reason why you should care. And this is one thing that people always do. And sometimes this is true of food companies. This is sometimes true with personal care, is we have this assumption that if it's on a shelf or it's available for sale, that it's safe. I mean, it's just kind of like, why would anybody create a product that's not safe? Well, I'm here to educate that that's actually not true. And so here's something very specific that I think you should understand, and maybe you should have your prospects understand, is that there's no pre-market safety testing that's required for chemicals that go into personal care products. And from the FDA, this is a quote, a cosmetic manufacturer may use almost any raw material as a cosmetic ingredient and market the product without the approval from the FDA. I don't know about you, but when I hear things like that, that's terrifying to me. So it is important to just understand that just because it's in a product doesn't mean that it's safe to use. In fact, this is again something where if you think that things that we put on our skin are not affecting us, this is actually how things we put on our skin can affect the environment, even beyond us. So this, what we do actually has an impact. Here's an article from Time that talks about how sunscreen is one of the main factors in why we're losing coral reefs. There's a chemical in there that is just destroying coral reefs, and that's something we put on our skin. It's killing the coral reefs, but yet we're putting it on our skin. Another thing that happens, and this is always sad for me to see this slide, is that these things that we put on our skin, they get washed into the water supply, and this is what happens to frogs that are exposed to chemicals in their environment. They're mutating, they're growing fourth and fifth legs, or 3 different eyes. So again, this is just to drive home the point that what we put on our bodies and what is in our environments really can make a difference to our cellular health down the road. So when we started looking into formulating Jouvé years ago, it was really intended to fit a niche in the market and the skincare industry, which is to be a healthier substitute for what is a mainstream, more toxic treatment. And what am I talking about specifically? Speaking about Botox and hydroquinone. So we're going to talk about these right now. Now, as mainstream as Botox is, and people laugh about it, people joke about it, people have no problem admitting that they do Botox, there are risks with Botox. And in the past, when there hasn't really been an option to do something for wrinkles, people have gone that route because there hasn't been an option. But what if there's now a better option? And obviously we all know that there is. But let's talk specifically about what these risks are. And many people may, because it's so mainstream, they may not know. So this is actually from the Mayo Clinic website. I just took a screenshot. Some of the risks of Botox are eyelid droop, crooked eyebrows, crooked smile, dry eye. But if you go a little further down, there's muscle weakness, trouble breathing, trouble speaking or swallowing, and loss of bladder control. Now, I've been in the naturopathic field for about 10 years now, and I have heard numerous other of my colleagues discuss clients that have come in that have had pretty adverse reactions to Botox. And so it's truly not a benign treatment. But I like to dig further. I like to because I don't want you to believe just me. Whatever. Yes, I'm in the position that I'm in. I'm on the Wellness Council and all that. But still, don't just believe me. So I like to show you some information that's you can just look up yourself and is highly objective, because this is something that's important to understand. So I went in and I looked up the package insert for Botox. So this is what this is. And you may not be able to see it on the screen, and I apologize because it's pretty small, but I'll just call out the important points. So if you look at the package insert for Botox, what do we see here? I just highlighted a few things. There have been reports of death. Warnings and precautions. Swallowing and breathing difficulties can lead to death. Seek immediate medical attention. And then adverse event reports have been received involving the cardiovascular system, some with fatal outcomes. So there you have it in black and white. Again, this is to, the chances of these happening if you were to do Botox, obviously they're lower, but the chance is there. So again, what if there was another alternative to doing this type of treatment? Now let's talk about hydroquinone. Hydroquinone is something that people have used for hyperpigmentation as a treatment for that. Now, hydroquinone is definitely one of those things that some people just go, "Ooh, I don't want to go near that." And here's why. It is available over the counter in a lower concentration, but it does go up to higher concentrations through prescription. But hydroquinone is something that people will use, for example, if they have been on, maybe they've been on tetracycline or other antibiotics and they go out into the sun and they get some spots. I mean, that's a side effect of certain medications, as you will get spots on your skin. Also, if you've had a baby and you have melasma from, it's basically pregnancy mask. I know I had it for quite a long time on my forehead after I had my daughter. So these are the types of situations where people would turn towards things like hydroquinone. But the number one risk of that is something called acronosis, which is, I'm not going to show you pictures because it's a little frightening, but if you use hydroquinone, it can cause these big blue and black blotches all over your skin. It can cause thickening of the skin. And when you're trying to make your skin better, to risk something even worse happening, that's highly, I feel so bad for the people that have that happen, obviously, because they're searching for something to make it better and it ends up getting worse. But that is a risk. It's rare, but it does happen. There's also carcinogenic properties related to hydroquinone. I'm going to talk about that in a second. People can certainly be allergic to it. It causes extreme photosensitivity. And I know if you've taken hydroquinone before, and I know I've spoken with some of you who have, the moment you go out into the sun, it feels like your face is on fire. You immediately become red and sunburned. So that's a real important thing for people that are taking hydroquinone, and it can cause liver damage. It's toxic. So why do people get such challenging results? Why? Because when I look on EWG's website, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. It rates a 9 on the scale of 1 to 10 for toxicity. So this is something I know I would never want to put on my skin. And there are a lot of people that have concerns about it. And guess what? We now have an option for these people that we know is effective and also safe to use. So that's a really important concept to grasp. In fact, here again, I'm just going to continue to just not have you believe me, just you can go look these things up yourself. This is from Wikipedia. So actually, hydroquinone is banned in some countries. The EU, the US FDA actually had revoked its previous approval of hydroquinone in over-the-counter, and it cannot be ruled out as a potential carcinogen. So again, just in the world where we now have an option that's healthier, it just doesn't, this is something to understand. Now, I'm not going to go too much into this because this is something that many of you have heard of, but we have our philosophy on our Jouvé product, along with all of our other lines, is that these are all the things that are in so many other skincare ingredient products that are not in ours. We don't have the phthalates, we don't have the parabens, the PEGs, synthetic fragrances, or artificial colors. That's something that a lot of those can be endocrine disruptors. They can be have reproductive implications. They can be carcinogenic. They can cause allergies and respiratory issues. So again, we're putting these things on our skin. These are things that we want to understand about what we're putting on our bodies, and we will never have these products in Jouvé. And you may or may not have seen our Never Ever list, but I highly recommend this is an amazing tool for those few people that actually really care that it's healthy. This kind of, you don't have to be an expert. This tool that we've created for the field has definitely, this can do the speaking for you. So this is available in the back office, and you can certainly always print it out, have it available on your phone, share it with people. This is a this is a differentiator. It truly is. In fact, yesterday I was being pitched at my gym. I was being pitched the skincare line, and they talked about how they were really, really clean. Of course, I look at the ingredients, and phenoxyethanol is in there along with a few other things. So it can really be a good tool for you to get familiar with some of these terms so that you can share with others. Now we'll get into a couple of the selling points for Jouvé, because that's, I know, why a lot of you are here. We've had the product for a while. People are excited. And here's what I like to share about Jouvé. So it's, as with many of our products, including in our nutrify line, the product is clinically proven, not just the ingredients. Many companies will take an ingredient that's been studied to have a clinical benefit. They'll put it in the product at a low dose to be able to say that that item is in the product, that ingredient is in the product. Our actual product has been studied in the clinical study, meaning an end-to-end study done on the exact formulation that you have available to you to sell. So that is a differentiator. Again, our ingredients are at clinical dosage levels. Now, in our brightener, the vitamin C that we use is at a clinical dose, and it's an oil-soluble form. Many other forms of vitamin C are highly unstable because they oxidize. But ours is a special form of vitamin C that's oil soluble, so we don't have those oxidation challenges. So we know that we're getting the benefit of vitamin C. And vitamin C is something that's been touted in the anti-aging industry for a long time. And here's just a study from PubMed. It really helps with the collagen synthesis. Collagen is what makes your skin have that youthful appearance. And we start to decline in collagen. But that's also why we use our Beauty Boost, because that, with the Dermavol that's in there, that helps with collagen. That's what also Venali is really good for. Maybe Dr. Strand's going to touch on that in a little bit. But this is part of the reason that people get that amazing result just on the brightener. I know myself, after 2 weeks on it, I had a huge difference. I noticed in a photo of myself. I couldn't believe how different my skin looked. Another quick couple points. We talk about no artificial colors. The tightener has a little bit of an orangish peach color. Well, that color comes from the curcumin, the turmeric that's in there. It's not a color. Many cosmetics companies will put coloring in their products. We're also non-comedogenic, which is a scale where we can where it's tested to see whether it will cause breakouts. We actually score a 0 across all skin types with our products, and that's a huge selling point. So if somebody says that they're breaking out after using it, sometimes when you disrupt the skin's status quo, there can be a little bit of a shift, but it's not because of the product causing it. It's important to understand that. So we are a 0 across the board. And our preservative is not a very common one, which is called phenoxyethanol. Our preservative in our is our fermented radish root. So that's, again, something that's a differentiator. And let's show you real quick about phenoxyethanol. We look at this is ewg.org. If you haven't been there, they have a cosmetics database where they rate ingredients as well as products. And if you look here on the left, and they score them on a scale of 1 to 10 for toxicity. And then if you read deeper, it's going to explain what the risk is and all that. But if you look on the left, our radish root, fermented radish root, rates a 1, which means it's the safest of any type of product. And phenoxyethanol scores a 4. So this is an objective third party that's just rating ingredients. So again, don't believe me. Am I driving that point home enough yet? But this is information that's out there and something for you to be able to objectively take a look at things and also to be able to speak confidently with your customers. And lastly, one of our proud accomplishments when our product development team developed Jouvé was that in the brightener, those of you that have used it, it's got that amazing, smooth, silky feel, right? When you put it on, it just feels luxurious. Many times the more natural products, especially in the skincare industry, can feel very watery. And it's because the consumer is very used to those like very slippery type of lotions. And that's because most of them use dimethicones or silicone, and those are also not healthy for us. But we were able to create the brightener without any of those products. So I know for Tom Jackson, that's a very proud moment where we've been able to create that amazing feel in the product without using something that's bad for you. So that's, again, just a little small tidbit. Maybe most people won't care, but for those of you that like little sound bites, that's something to think about. And obviously our products are multitasking. They can replace several different individual products in the medicine cabinet. In the clinical trial, we tested on all skin types and different ages. And then lastly, in terms of the long-term wrinkle reduction, our closest competitor is an ingredient called argireline, which is clinically shown at 17% reduction. And I believe that's the top end of their trial, but don't quote me on this. And again, this is just to give you a perspective. Argireline is a peptide that was created a while back. So it's been around for quite a while. It's in a lot of products, and it does work to help reduce wrinkles. But our peptide, it's called SNAP8. It's an octapeptide. So it's a few generations beyond that. That's why we get such a more improved result. So I think we can feel confident that there are not other products out there that will have the result that ours does with the Jouvé. So here we get to the final part of our conversation here today, because I know many of you, now that you're out there, you've got the products, you're getting your results. Whoops. Somehow it went to the first slide.
It's okay, Erika. There's so many people on here. No one else is driving it. When it does that, it's just because we have so many people on. So if you can go back to wherever, or go back one.
I don't remember what slide. Let me see if I can guess what slide I was on.
And this is incredible training. I'm getting more text messages than you could imagine of people just loving this.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad this is helpful.
It wasn't you. This was we've
here we are.
All right, perfect.
Here we are. Okay, so now that we're all in the field, we're all out there actually doing this with Jouvé instead of it being, oh, it's coming. I know many of you are getting asked about all sorts of other products that are on the market. Now, this section is not intended to be, this is just intended to be some information for you about how we differentiate. And it's important for you to feel confident with our product. And so I'm not intending this section to be any kind of bashing or speaking negatively about any other products on the market, because that's not what I want to do, nor do we need to do that. We can feel confident that our products are clean and good. But I do want to give you guys some additional information so that when you do get asked about these other products, how we can just feel comfortable sharing about them. So one of the biggest ones that we get asked about is Nerium. Now, again, I'm not an expert in these companies. I'm not an expert in their products. I am just giving my opinion. You can do your own research, but I'm going to share with you what I have learned about these companies and what I do speak to when people ask me about this. Now, Nerium has a product called their age-defying night cream, and it's marketed as a long-term wrinkle reduction. So you start using it, over time, you're going to see a reduction in wrinkles. Now, the biggest concern or critique that Nerium gets is one of their main ingredient is called Nerium oleander. That's a botanical name for a form of oleander. Those of us in Southern California, we have oleander all over the highways. It's a plant that's very abundant, but it's also very toxic. It can be fatal if it's ingested. And it was originally being studied as an anti-cancer treatment, but they weren't getting the results that way. So they decided to find an application in the skincare world, believe it or not. And it can be highly irritating to the skin. And I know I've heard this from people myself where they've tried it and they're like, oh, I can't use it because my skin broke out or my skin got really irritated. But the product itself is highly irritating to the skin. And what happens when you irritate the skin is it will cause inflammation. So your skin will get irritated and puffy. And then it's going to have the appearance that the wrinkles are being reduced. So there is some visible improvement in the wrinkles. But the moment that you stop using the product, it goes back to what it was before, because you're basically inflaming the skin, and then you stop using it, and then your skin goes back to normal over time, and then the wrinkles are still there. So that's why they're getting some of the improvement that they're getting. And I know what they ended up doing, because so many people were having breakouts and their skin was getting very irritated, they did create a day cream that you can now purchase that's intended to counteract the irritation you get from the night cream. So they've kind of created a product that will balance that. And again, this is what I have been able to surmise from all of my research and my studies. But again, this is where and I've heard people all along that have used this product, there's a very earthy smell to it. And not that ultimately matters, because if something's therapeutic, maybe it's going to smell bad, but I know the smell is pretty intense. But I do want to speak to the Nerium oleander topic just a bit, because this is, again, my opinion. They have a lot of experts that are on their website that will explain why Nerium oleander is safe to use, clearly, because that's the biggest objection that they get. And I know for me, I listened to all of their rationale. And one of the biggest reasons is that they claim that they even make the analogy to Botox, is that Botox is highly toxic and it's a poison. But in small doses, it's okay. So because it's in small doses, there's no bad effect in the long term. And I don't know about you, but for me, that I don't want to put something that's bad for me on my body, period. Never mind something that is, in a small dose over time. That's just my opinion. So if somebody else wants to do it, that's a lot of their rationale, and the safety studies they've done have been for a period of time. But anyway, I do want to mention that because, again, some people are okay with that. I personally am not, and wanted to mention it. So again, I'm just looking stuff up. I go on Wikipedia. Let's read about Nerium oleander. Toxic in all its parts. I don't like to put anything toxic on my body. I don't care if it's approved in certain uses, but if it's toxic, I'm not putting it on my skin. I'm not putting it in my eyes. I'm not putting it in my mouth. I'm not taking it as a supplement. If something's bad, I'm just going to stay away from it as much as possible. And so again, I'm going to the EWG website. You can look up individual ingredients. Here is Nerium's age-defying night cream. These are just a few of the ingredients that I pulled out. So there's the dimethicone. That's what makes it have that silky feeling. That rates a 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. Sodium borate down here, that's a 5 to 6. Again, that's more on the dangerous range. And the last one I want to show you is this ingredient called sodium hydroxymethylglycinate. So you probably can't even read it because it's so small on your screen, but that rates a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10. But let me just tell you what that is. The reason that rates a 6 is because it is a formaldehyde releaser. And we all remember 7th grade science class, formaldehyde. What is that used for? But I don't want that on my skin. So formaldehyde is something that is released from one of the ingredients in Nerium. I wouldn't I personally would not want to put that on my skin. But again, this is just things you can find out there. This is objective information that you can research yourself. So another product that we get asked a lot about is Jeunesse, which they have an instantly ageless product, which is like our tightener. So you put it on, a few minutes later, you lose 10 years. And they have recently come out with another product called the No. 7 serum. So they do have now 2 separate products, which is the instant plus the long term, which they did a clinical trial on it after 12 months. And in their clinical, I believe that they claim a double reduction in wrinkles after 2 to 12 months of the serum alone. So they do get some long-term benefits through their long-term product. It's 2 separate products, whereas remember, with our tightener, we get results within 1 product, right? So that's a differentiator. And also, there is currently no long-term results published on the instantly ageless product. So to me, that maybe they haven't done it yet. I don't know. I'm not an expert on them, but my sense is it's more of an instant result as opposed to having a long-term benefit. So again, just a couple things to take a look at. And, Jeunesse Instantly Ageless does have the phenoxyethanol in it, which is a 4. So just a few little tidbits there as you're going out and talking to the world. Now, lastly, I do want to mention Rodan & Fields. Now, Rodan & Fields is a company that is getting, I have many friends who sell Rodan & Fields. They've some of the top earners there, in fact. And they've got an overall line. Now, there's not a comparative product. It's not like they have a tightener and then something that's like a brightener, and we can do a one-to-one comparison with Rodan & Fields. They have an overall skincare line, and they do get some good results with their products. And again, they have different niches they market to, but ultimately, they do get some good results. But I, again, just looked on EWG's website. They range a 2 to a 4, which that's actually pretty good from a purity standpoint. So it's not too bad, but there are some ingredients that you can see on the left there, rate an 8 in some of the products. Now, when you go to ewg.org, you can search by brand and by exact product, but not all products are listed in the EWG website. So they need to go through an approval process. It takes a long time. There's some companies that wouldn't submit their products for review simply because they don't want their products reviewed. But, and Jouvé is so new, we're not on there either, but you can always go and look up individual ingredients on ingredient lists. It's just a really good objective tool, because I get a lot of people that are say, oh, I buy this really expensive skincare line from Los Angeles, from Hollywood, because I heard that it's super clean. Well, let's go on EWG and take a look. And it's amazing how so often people will be spending like hundreds of dollars a month on products that they thought were clean, but they aren't, because a lot of people market themselves as being clean, but they in fact they have some clean ingredients, but then they also have some bad ones. So I did just want to mention this. So as we wrap up, I'm so glad to have been here with you, and I hope that this has been helpful. But I do want to end on one final story. This is something where I'm going to put myself out there because it really drives home a few points. So I'll just start sharing. So last weekend, I was in Utah, and I was with my daughter, and we had spent a few days in Utah. So we decide that we're going to go skiing. I mean, why not? Who can go to Utah and not ski in that amazing powder? So we decided to ski on Sunday. We went up to Alta. So this is a beautiful picture from the top of Alta. So we're up there. I'm excited. I haven't skied in 4 years. And usually when I go up to altitude, my skin gets really dry and it gets all cracked. And I put the Jouvé brightener on my face twice a day, and my skin stayed totally amazing the entire time. That was a first for me. Usually it gets really dry and rough. So we're skiing along, and here's my daughter at the top of the ski lift. We hadn't gone down yet. This is the first obligatory photo up in the mountains when you get off the lift. There's her ready to go. Here we are in the, taking a little photo, all excited. And here we are. So we're going on this run, and in this picture, you can see there's just powder in the background. I mean, those were untracked. We had probably 6 or 8 inches of brand new powder the night before, and it was just amazing. So it's like one of those epic days where I was smiling the whole day. So about 3 minutes after we took this photo, she does what most kids do, and that is, I'm hungry, Mommy. I want to go eat. And we had been out there for a couple hours. So I said, all right, let's go down and get some lunch. So we ski down, and a couple minutes later, we arrive at Mid-Mountain, this restaurant. Those of you that have been there probably recognize this. This is Alf's restaurant. So we take off our gear, we put our skis and poles, and we go inside. And it's crowded. It's lunchtime. So we go in there. I'm walking, take off my helmet. I take off my goggles. I'm walking around. We're getting our food. We're sitting there. I'm having some conversations with just, the people getting my food. I'm walking around for 45 minutes. I'm in the restaurant doing our lunch thing and whatever. So we're done eating and we end up like, let's go use the restroom before we go back down on the hill because we don't want to have to stop again. So sure enough, I walk into the restroom and I happen to glance in the mirror and I see this. I literally was like, this was me. This emoji. I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So when I go to altitude, I do get puffy. I sometimes get puffy under the eyes. I sometimes get like some edema in my legs. Like altitude has done this to me for the last number of years. So I was mortified. I'd been walking around for 45 minutes with that face, thinking I just looked like me, and I didn't look like me. I looked like my great aunt. So anyway, so here I am. So look, you see these bags on my eyes, and you can even tell in this photo, I have this look of fear in those eyes. I am terrified. Like you can even see it in my eyes anyway. So here's what I do. I was actually feeling like this guy, this emoji. I was feeling like this. I'm so embarrassed that I just did that for 45 minutes. And I also wanted to ski down the hill with my eyes like this, but I didn't think that would bode well for my safety. So then something happened. So guys, this is where I swear the universe was lining up, whatever. So I have for the last few weeks walked around with 2 of the 3-day minis in my pocket. I wear this this jacket all the time, and I have 2 of the samples with my business card, and they're in a little bag, like a little jewelry bag. And I remember earlier in the day, I was trying to get some lip stuff out on the mountain. I go, oh my gosh, my Jouvé is in my pocket, because I was wearing the jacket that I wear all the time. I was like, oh my gosh, why is the Jouvé in my pocket? This is taking up space, valuable space, when I don't want to drop it on the hill when you're trying to fumble with stuff. But there we go. All of a sudden I remembered, oh my gosh, I've got my Jouvé. How ridiculous that I have it, but I have it. So what I did is I grabbed it. I put some of the tightener on, and I'm dabbing it on. I'm in the mirror, and here's what else I did. This is me excited that I had the Jouvé. I was now the dancing lady. But then I noticed I had this hand dryer was in the bathroom. So guess what I did? I'm dabbing it on. I grab the thing and I turn it up. I turn it on, and it's blowing right on my face, because that's one of the tips to make it dry faster is to use a hair dryer. So I was like, I have that. So I literally put like 4 layers of it under my eyes, and it started working. So I was like, okay, thank goodness. And so here it was after about 5 minutes. So there's definitely an improvement. And in fact, on the right photo, you can see my eyes are not as terrified as they were before. But I'm like, okay, so phew, that's at least a little bit better. I'm glad. Let me go outside. So I go outside, grab my gear, grab my stuff. We go back outside. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm in natural light right now. Let me take my phone and let me see how I look outside in this light. So these are not official before and after photos, people, because I was not planning on this happening. So that's my disclaimer. But I turned the camera on myself and I took a photo of myself. I had my gear on, and this is outside. And look at under my eyes. I mean, I literally was like, are you kidding me? I mean, I even zoomed in. You couldn't even see any white res. It was amazing. And I literally took that photo. And I was in love with my Jouvé. So here we go. You guys pick. A, be prepared. Have your stuff with you. You never know when it'll come in handy. But you pick. Which one would you have rather looked like that day? Anyway, that's it for today. I hope that was helpful. I hope that I shared some information that will be valuable to you. And I'm just really honored to have been asked to be here today with you.